Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have a great show for you. First, some newly released body cam video from the crime scene in the Bryan Kohberger matter. A lot of people are talking about it. The Donna Adelson trial begins, and the judge tells Miss Adelson to control herself. Not off to a good start. Erik Menendez denied parole. NASA's little evening walk. A stepmother's sticky situation leads to a plea deal. We have This Day in Legal History, our quote of the day, and our dumb criminal of the day, where a waitress turns a flirty flip into a felony fumble. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, hit that little bell for notifications, and yes, you can check us out on any of your favorite podcasting apps. Now, before we get started, let me remind you to go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up for that background subscription service today. If there's somebody that you want to check out, now is the time to do it. So whether you want to do one search or 100 or 1,000 searches, you can do it. You type in the individual's name. The report is literally prepared while you wait, and then it is emailed to you, and you're going to get all kinds of information about people. Phone numbers, email addresses, social media presence. Do they have a criminal history? Are they married? Are they divorced? Do they have liens and judgments against them? And yes, most importantly, criminal history. Go to crimetalksearch.com. You're going to be happy that you did. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Bryan Kohberger case, the case that just never seems to end. Could you imagine, though, all the good talk we would have had he proceeded to trial? Yeah, it would have been 12 glorious weeks of content. But don't worry, he doesn't disappoint, because there has been new body cam video released. All right. So an overview for those who don't recall, Bryan Kohberger, the former criminology PhD student, was sentenced to life in prison without parole on July 23rd, following his guilty plea to 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary in the stabbing deaths of 4 University of Idaho students. Now, this case all came about there in Moscow, Idaho, on November 13th of 2022. Anyway, significant attention due to the release of new evidence, including body cam footage and crime scene photos, after Kohberger obviously entered a plea. It's now becoming public knowledge, and yes, he got off from the death penalty. So let's take a look at it, all right? So the initial response on November 13th shows that there was a report of an unconscious person at 1122 King Road, a shared student residence. Officers discovered the bodies of Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, who had been stabbed multiple times. Now, recently released body cam footage captures the chaotic scene outside the home, where surviving roommates Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk, along with friends, were visibly distraught as the reality of the quadruple homicide began to emerge. Now, the footage, spanning approximately 52 minutes, depicts a heartbreaking escalation into the witnesses' emotional states. Initially, survivors and friends are seen huddling under blankets in the road, exhibiting signs of shock and confusion upon the officers' arrival around midday. As police confirmed the deaths inside the residence, the demeanor of those present shifted dramatically to one of profound grief and horror. Loud, guttural cries echoed from the group, with individuals collapsing into uncontrollable sobbing as the full extent of the tragedy became apparent. Now, Mortensen, who's barefoot and visibly trembling, broke down in tears while recounting her encounters with a masked intruder inside the residence earlier that morning, her voice breaking as she expressed disbelief, stating she had convinced herself nothing happens in Moscow. She appeared disoriented and overwhelmed, reportedly sobbing while describing hearing screams and seeing the figures, which she later linked to Kohberger. Now, Funk, sniffling and weeping, displayed similar distress, her hands shaking as she reviewed her phone for timestamps of calls and texts to the unresponsive roommates, whimpering that she had assumed they were merely asleep. Now, the arrival of additional students, including Chapin's triplet brother, Hunter Chapin, intensified the scene's emotional intensity. Unaware of the deaths Hunter approached casually, only to be met with friends, anguished sobs, and direct notifications of his brother's fate, leading to visible devastation among the group. One friend, who had entered the home and discovered Kernodle's body, conveyed a frantic sense of unreality in subsequent interviews, describing the moment of realization as horrific as it was. Now, officers noted the witness's intoxication from the previous night may have contributed to Delay's reactions, and Mortensen later explained she hesitated to call 911 due to disbelief and fear. Now, while Funk initially interpreted the events as a possible fraternity prank, throughout the footage, though, the collective demeanor reflected a transition from initial concern to raw, visceral anguish upon comprehending the scale of the murders, which, with redacted audio, captures sighs of emotion from officers themselves. The footage also shows the backsliding door left ajar, suggesting the intruder's escape. Crime scene images depict remnants of typical college evenings, such as a beer pong set up on the living room table, and Kernodle's partially eaten DoorDash order from Jack in the Box, delivered shortly before the attack. A footprint in the snow outside the house and a black bag found nearby in the woods were noted as potential evidence. Prosecutors detailed Kohberger's movements. He entered through the kitchen sliding door around 4 a.m., proceeding to the third floor to stab Mogen and Gonsalves in one bed, then attacked Kernodle, Chapin on the second floor. Now, Mortensen heard a male voice saying, "I'm okay, I'm going to help you," and saw the intruder leave. Now, there's been no direct connection between Kohberger and the victims that has been basically established through proof, though his motives obviously still remain unclear. The Idaho State Police released over 500 pages of documents following Kohberger's sentencing, revealing suspicions of stalking. Cell phone data placed Kohberger near the King Road home at least 23 times between July and November of 2022, primarily at night. Victims and friends reported unusual incidents, including Gonsalves spotting a man in the nearby trees while walking her dog, Murphy, who uncharacteristically barked at the tree line during parties. On November 4th of 2022, roommates found their front door open and searched the house with a golf club, fearing an intruder. Gonsalves also mentioned being followed weeks earlier. Now, digital forensics on Kohberger's devices showed efforts to erase his online trail using VPNs, incognito mode, and cleared histories. A passive Google map file linked of the Mad Greek restaurant where Mogen and Kernodle worked suggested possible prior research, though undated. Now, Kohberger, a vegan, may have visited the establishment, but this remains unconfirmed. And witness accounts from the Washington State University, where Kohberger studied, painted him as unsettling. Female classmates and faculty described him as condescending and sexist, with incidents of him blocking women in rooms or discussing serial killers like Ted Bundy. One professor warned he could become a future rapist if granted a PhD, citing 13 complaints about his behavior in a very short amount of time. A Pullman cafe worker reported daily visits from Kohberger, who learned her name and schedule without explanation, leading her to avoid him completely. She also experienced knocks on her windows and porch noises at home, coinciding with a white car matching Kohberger's Hyundai Elantra leaving the area. Now, obviously, Kohberger was ultimately arrested on December 30th of 2022 at his parents' home in Pennsylvania. After maintaining his innocence for over 2 years, he pled guilty in June of 2025, days before his capital trial was scheduled to begin, in exchange for avoiding a potential execution. The deal obviously divided victims' families. The Gonsalves and Kernodle families criticized it for denying them a full trial, while the Mogen and Chapin families supported it. At his July 23rd sentencing in Ada County, Kohberger heard impact statements labeling him a pathetic loser. He showed minimal emotion and waived appellate rights to get the deal. A judge by the name of Megan Marshall issued a restraining order on unredacted images from Mogen's bedroom following a lawsuit by her mother, with a hearing scheduled now for August 28th of 2025. Now, Kohberger, he remains incarcerated at the Idaho Maximum Security Institution in Kuna under inmate number 163214. Prison records indicate complaints about harassment, including verbal threats via vents, flooding in cells, and sexual threats, prompting transfer requests by the quadruple killer, which have been denied, with advice to give it some time. They'll grow on you. Now, while in the Latah County Jail pre-trial, inmates reported Kohberger watching news of his arrests obsessively, boasting about coverage, but changing channels at mentions of his family. He favored films like American Psycho, followed court TV cases such as Alec Murdaugh's trial, and maintained frequent contacts with Mother. Digital analysis showed he called her multiple times daily, including after the murders. Kohberger's academic career ended with his firing as a teaching assistant at Washington State University Pullman due to poor performance and complaints. Now, his fascination with offender psychology combined with these behaviors has fueled discussion on studying his case for insights into criminal motivations. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. Only motivation you need is this guy had serious issues with women, not wired right. He's a little mama's boy. And, let's face it, he probably will lose his virginity while in prison. Next on the docket, the Donna Adelson case update. All right, for those who don't know, Donna Adelson is on trial in Leon County, Florida for her alleged role in orchestrating the 2014 murder for hire of Dan Markel, a Florida State University law professor, and guess what? Her now former son-in-law, amid a contentious custody dispute. The trial commenced on the 22nd of August following jury selection. At the start of the day, the judge issued several rulings. First, he denied the defense's motion to change the trial venue from Leon County, which would make sense since they got a jury. Granted in part a defense motion in limine regarding a new investigation, and fully granted a motion to suppress evidence potentially related to a jailhouse snitch who reported on Adelson while in custody. Some rulings remain under seal. Then we went to opening statements. The prosecution argued that the Adelson family hired hitmen through an intermediary to kill Markel, and that Donna Adelson attempted to influence others to lie about the case even while incarcerated. The defense presented an alternative portrayal of Miss Adelson, though specific details were not elaborated in the opening statement. Then we got testimony. Witness testimony began about 11 o'clock with the prosecution calling first James Geiger, a neighbor. He described hearing a loud bang, observed a car backing out rapidly, and discovering Markel's vehicle with a shattered window. Initially mistaking his condition for being on a phone call. Then we had David Sims, a retired Tallahassee police sergeant at one of the first responders, noted that Markel made a sucking sound holding a cell phone in one hand and a business card in the other. Then we had retired Tallahassee police forensic specialists. They presented some crime scene images, including broken eyeglasses and Markel's wallet containing cash to counter any robbery motive. Then we had Dr. Anthony Clark, the assistant medical examiner, certified as an expert, detailed autopsy findings showing 2 bullets lodged in Markel's brain. The first shot was not immediately fatal, but the second to the forehead was unsurvivable. Testimony included some pretty graphic photos and continued post-lunch. Then Officer Craig Isom, a retired police officer, also took the stand after lunch as it relates to his involvement at the crime scene. We'll continue to bring you updates, and guess what? You can watch the whole trial in its entirety. It's going to be an interesting one. But after following some emotional displays by Miss Adelson during testimony, Judge Everett cautioned her in open court to control her reactions. After a little sidebar discussion, indeed. Anyway, the defense objected to some emails about Markel's parents and an online dating profile as irrelevant. The judge allowed the redactions of a racial slur in evidence and expressed frustration over delays in resolving these issues, which should have been done basically pre-trial. Anyway, the trial will continue. It's going to be a good one, ladies and gentlemen. I really do believe it is. And heck, the prosecution's done it like 4 times already, so they should, they're moving right along. So that is a good thing indeed. Now, obviously, Miss Adelson, given the presumption of innocence, even though she was arrested, on that one-way ticket to Vietnam, it happens. That's how don't most people plan their travels right after her son got convicted? Not really. Next on the docket, Erik Menendez denied parole. That's right. His Plea hits a wall. Board deems his prison shenanigans a little too disturbing for freedom. So in a little twist that rivals the plot of a dark family drama, Erik Menendez, now 54, has been turned down for parole nearly 4 decades after he and his brother Lyle turned their Beverly Hills home into a crime scene straight out of a thriller novel. Appearing via live feed from the San Diego's Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility, Erik faced the California Board of Parole hearings on Thursday, fresh off a judicial decision that softened their original life without parole sentence to a mere parole eligible after 50 years to life. Alas, the board wasn't buying what the brother was selling for years. The verdict: no freedom for Erik for at least 3 more years, thanks to a rap sheet of prison misadventures that could fill a sequel. Drawing from reports stretching back to 1997, the board highlighted scuffles, substance slip-ups, contraband cell phones, and even a purported role in a 2013 prison gang's tax evasion escapade, as detailed in the Los Angeles Times. Despite what your cheerleaders might think, you haven't exactly been the poster child for model incarceration, and we find that rather unsettling, the board quipped. This denial capped a marathon hearing where commissioners grilled Erik on his past deeds and disciplinary lapses. They kicked off with the teenager burglary caper at 17. It started as a harmless lark at a party, but snowballed into something a little more grave. Erik explained. He said that he was immature, eager to impress, and ended up causing real harm to those that he targeted. He elaborated on his inner turmoil, citing profound self-esteem struggles and upbringing devoid of ethical anchors. My parents didn't instill a sense of right and wrong, he noted. Instead, I learned to bend rules, lying, cheating, even in tennis matches under my father's direction. Moral boundaries? Not on the family's curriculum, he said. For context, Erik and Lyle were apprehended for the 1989 shotgun slaying of their parents, Jose and Kitty, during what should have been a quiet movie night in their opulent mansion in Beverly Hills. At 18 and 21, respectively, the brothers sparked global sensationalism. Prosecutors painted a picture of cold-blooded murder with a $14 million inheritance in sight, followed by lavish post-crime splurges, Erik's Jeep and tennis coaching dreams, Lyle's Porsche and eatery ventures, plus their notorious courtside seats at the NBA game amid the chaos. Yet the siblings countered that their actions stem from years of paternal sexual abuse, with their mother allegedly complicit through inaction. Their initial trial deadlocked, but a 1996 retrial with no abuse evidence sealed their fate with life. At Thursday's session, Erik touted his prison forged moral compass, complete with a bachelor's degree earned with distinction. He confessed to smuggling cell phones, weighing the thrill of external contact against the risk, given his dim release prospects. Associations with the gang, pure self-preservation, he claimed, until last year's parole possibility shifted his calculus. Suddenly, the stakes meant sabotage to his own future, he reflected. The hearing delved deeply into the abuse claims, with Erik describing arming himself against potential parental threats. Why not flee or elite authorities? Escape felt like a death sentence. I was convinced it was impossible, he insisted. Probed on slaying his mother, who evidence showed was finished off after crawling wounded, Erik grew emotional. Learning she'd known about the abuse all along shattered me. I shielded her by staying silent. In that moment, they blurred into one entity. Without her there, perhaps the outcome differs. He owned up to their extravagant spending as profoundly insensitive, torn between self-loathing and youthful folly. Erik also extended heartfelt regrets to relatives. I'm profoundly sorry for the devastation I've caused. Their support means everything, and any future healing should center on them. Anyway, the Menendez clan expressed measured disappointment in the statement, affirming faith in Erik's evolution and eyeing Lyle's Friday hearing with guarded hope. We see him a reformed individual deserving reintegration. Erik's legal team may now seek a review of factual discrepancies, keeping the saga's next chapter in suspense. Lil Nas has a meltdown that lands him in the clink. That's right, Lil Nas's peculiar afternoon wandering. As revealed by newly obtained surveillance footage, the curious episode unfolded nearly 15 hours before his arrest, offering a glimpse into what seems like a day of personal reflection gone awry. The video, captured outside the Short Stories Hotel around 1:30 p.m. on Wednesday, shows the artist meandering into the courtyard from the street. Hotel sources confirm he was not a registered, yet there he was, fully attired in his signature cowboy aesthetics, hat, boots, jeans, and a short sleeve shirt, casually fanning himself against the afternoon heat. From there, the industry baby hitmaker ventured into the lobby for a quick hydration break with a cup of water, practical if unremarkable. But in a move that added a dash of spontaneity, he opted to shed his shirt before stepping back onto the sidewalk, perhaps channeling that free-spirited vibe he's mastered in his music. Fast forward to the wee hours of Thursday, and the scene shifted dramatically. Lil Nas X was spotted on Ventura Boulevard, some 7 miles away, at approximately 4 a.m., clad only in underwear and those unmistakable white cowboy boots, as previously reported. Police responded, leading to his booking for battery on an officer after allegedly charging towards them. What transpired in the interim remains a mystery, with no word yet from his representatives. One can't help but admire the artist's ability to keep us guessing, much like his genre-defined tracks, though he's hoping for a smoother trail ahead. Obviously, something mental health related there, or drugs. Hopefully he gets the help that he needs. Next on the docket, a nurse takes a plea deal to avoid a more steep sentence. That's right. On something that looks like a poorly scripted soap opera, a Florida nurse accused of an illicit encounter with her teenage stepson has accepted a plea agreement, trimming what could have been a lengthy stint behind bars. Please meet Alexa Von Yates, age 35, faced initial accusations of inappropriate conduct with a minor following her husband's dramatic discovery last year. Police reports suggest he returned home to a scene straight out of a cautionary tale, prompting swift legal action. However, the erstwhile healthcare professional, now stripped of her nursing credentials amid the controversy, has entered a no-contest plea to a downgraded charge of indecent assault, as detailed in the court record. Police noted that the affected family's endorsement of the arrangement stems from a desire to shield the young victim, now just 16, from the trauma of recounting the events in open court, which might impede the psychological recovery. I'm sure he's having such a psychological recovery, high-fiving all of his friends at school. Anyway, Yates is slated for 2 years in state custody, succeeded by an equal period of supervised release and a decade-long probation as a registered sex offender. Additional obligations include, how about 200 hours of volunteer work and covering associated legal fees? The final sentence, set for September, will incorporate input from the victim and his birth mother. The saga unfolded after an unnamed informant alerted law enforcement in July of last year, mere days post-incident, relaying details of the father's unexpected interruption. Allegations point to Von Yates engaging with her stepson during his summer stay at the family residence. Court records paint a picture of an evening that began innocently enough, tucking in her own children, followed by shared activities like inhaling a little cannabis, vaping, gaming sessions, and film viewing with the adolescent. But as the clock struck 1 a.m., a shift to a fright flick allegedly gave way to seduction, with Von Yates voicing boredom and unmet desires, citing a fortnight sans intimacy and her menstrual cycle as culprits. The narrative escalated to physical closeness, progressing to more intimate acts. Despite her purported lament that the boy fell short of the age of majority by 3 years, it was amid this that the husband arriving, allegedly witnessing the pair in a compromising, unclothed state on the living room sofa. The startled father reportedly erupted in fury, hurling items and invectiveness, labeling his spouse and harsh epithets, including predator. The teen fled the premises, overhearing Von Yates' peculiar defense that he resembled a youthful version of his dad. Post-arrest, November 2024, Von Yates' professional license was promptly revoked. The plea spares the victim from remote testimony, prioritizing his well-being over extended incarceration for the accused. As the prosecutor articulated, the family's calculus favors emotional preservation over punitive excess, deeming it a balance of justice. In Florida, where consent requires 18 years of age, this case underscores, obviously, the perils of some blurred boundaries in some blended households, providing that some family bonds are best left untangled. Next on the docket, this day in legal history. On August 22nd, 1775, King George III issues a declaring the American colonies in open rebellion against the British rule, formalizing the legal state of war that led to the American Revolution and ultimately independence. August 22nd, 1862, Confederate General Jeb Stuart raids Union General John Pope's headquarters at the Catlet Station, Virginia, capturing documents and items. The Civil War event highlighted wartime legal issues like property seizure and espionage under military law. Let's jump to 1965. San Francisco Giants Juan Marichal strikes Los Angeles Dodger catcher John Rosenborough with a bat during a game, leading to assault charges, a suspension, and fines under the MLB rules and criminal law. August 22nd, 1971, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover and Attorney General John Mitchell announced the arrest of 20 members of the Camden 28, a bunch of anti-Vietnam War activists charged with raiding a draft board under federal conspiracy laws. And on August 22nd, 1998, Barry Black leads a KKK rally in Carroll County, Virginia, resulting in his conviction for cross-burning. The case reaches the United States Supreme Court in Virginia v. Black, affirming First Amendment limits on threats, which leads us into the legal quote of the day. So a foundational statement from the United States Supreme Court regarding the true threats as an exception to First Amendment protection appears in Virginia v. Black, 2003, the opinion written by Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. Writing for the majority, she articulated, quote, true threats encompass those statements where the speaker means to communicate a serious expression of an intent to commit an act of unlawful violence to a particular individual or group or individuals. Now, that definition distinguishes genuine threats from protected speech, such as hyperbole or jest, and has been refined in subsequent cases in Counterman v. Colorado, here in Colorado, which added a subjective intent that you have to show that it was the person's intent to put the other person in fear, not just because you had an overly sensitive person. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. And finally, our dumb criminal of the day. The Pancake Palace shenanigans. In a twist that's more sour than syrup, a Florida IHOP server found herself in hot water or perhaps hot coffee after allegedly turning a routine dinner service into an unsolicited cuddle session. On August 22nd, 2025, 26-year-old Allie Mae Wright was slapped with a battery charge for what police described as an overzealous display of affection toward a 51-year-old female diner. Picture this, ladies and gentlemen. Wright, slinging flapjacks at the St. Pete Beach outpost of the Breakfast Empire, reportedly kicked off the evening's escapades by dubbing her unsuspecting customer a sexy something or other. We'll keep it PG here, and sliding over an unquested milkshake as a dubious peace offering. Not content with verbal volleys, Wright allegedly plopped down booth side, proceeding to give the woman an impromptu massage, back, arm, and even a graze of the breast, before capping it off with a head-on-shoulder lean that screamed too close for comfort. The victim, who had zero prior acquaintances with her amorous attendant, made it crystal clear no invitation extended for this touchy-feely tango. Lucky for justice, the whole awkward affair was caught on the restaurant's watchful camera, providing pixel-perfect proof. Cops noted a whiff of booze on Miss Wright upon her arrest, adding a boozy layer to the bizarre batter. She spent a night behind bars before posting a $250 bond with a stern judicial decree to steer clear of her former table mate. As for her gig at the Pancake Paradise, well, that's still in the air, leaving us to wonder if she'll be flipping burgers elsewhere soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for you today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. And remember, the Constitution matters.